My name is Gerry McIntyre. I'm the Associate Artistic Director of the York Theater, and I'm the host of UNSUNG. My goal for UNSUNG was to celebrate people of color who work behind the scenes. And tonight's guest is Tim Bond. Tim began his career in Seattle with the Seattle Group Theater in 1984, where he directed over 20 productions, many that were West Coast and world premieres. He served as the Associate Artistic Director and was also the director of the group's nationally recognized Multicultural Playwrights Festival. Tim served his last 5 seasons at the group as its artistic director from 1991 to 96. From 1996 to 2007, Tim was the associate artistic director of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. While there, he directed 12 productions of Oregon Shakes, promoted equity and inclusion efforts throughout the company, and created the FAIR program, which cultivates the next generation of diverse theater artists and administrators. I met Tim this summer when I was choreographing Ragtime at the TheatreWorks Palo Alto, and I was staging the opening number of Ragtime, which, if you know, Ragtime is about 7 hours long. And this gentleman comes in and is watching me, and he's like half masked. I only can see his eyes because we were all masked up. And he just starts, I just see him nodding his head, and I don't know who he is, but I just understood him and he understood me from just watching the challenge of choreographing the opening number of Ragtime. And well, the rest is history, because now he's one of my best buds. I'm obsessed with him, and he's here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Bond.
Thank you.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes, I did watch you in pain and in pleasure too, taking pleasure from that pain. But that's a really huge, crazy number, which and beautifully choreographed by you, my friend. Really just gorgeous. I just felt like I was in the hands of a genius and somebody who really knew what they wanted and was being patient and watching your brain figure out the puzzle of where people needed to go, or where they needed to go based on where they needed to be next and where they needed to finally get to by the end. And just watching your wheels and then watch you go boom into action and and do it, and then be like, no, don't talk. I'm concentrating. Just children, quiet, and then boom. So like, it was an honor to be in your presence. Made me very happy. Here I am in Northern California, starting my tenure as artistic director of TheatreWorks, and Gerry McIntyre's in the house.
Oh, thank you so much, my friend. And we were, of course, masked, so I could only see much of you, but I knew that you felt me and you got me, and that's why. I even told you, I said, listen, I want to do a play with you because I want you direct me in something. I just trust you. We just met that one time, but
we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
When you meet someone and you go, you know what, that's the real deal. Because I don't feel safe sometimes with directors. Like with you, I was like, I know for a fact that you would take care of me and you'd guide me.
Oh yeah, I guide you, and you guide me too, because like my whole thing is I want to surf on the wave of the artist's impulses in the room. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Like, impulse. Free, try it. Okay, let me surf with you on that. Okay, well, maybe we'll go a little bit more here or there or whatever, or this is something you did, then I think that's where we want to go, and remind you, because I trust the artists that I'm working with to take where we need to go, and I have a ball doing it, man.
I know you do. I want you to explain to the people what your job description is. And I don't, it must be very, I don't know, I'm gonna let you do it.
Well, I'll just tell you, in pandemic times, which we are in right now, here in July of 2022. It's so hard to remember the dates because the last 2 years all blur together, brother. You know. And this is my fourth stint as artistic director. The last job I had was producing artistic director at Syracuse Stage for 9 years, up in Syracuse. And I, being a producing artistic director meant that I was actually at the top of the organizational chart, and my managing director worked underneath me, even though we operated as co-equals. But as the producing artistic director, I set budget, I cast all the shows, I worked with the directors, picked the directors, helped pick the designers for the whole season, picked the season, and oversaw all that. The difference right now as artistic director of TheatreWorks is that I will be working with an executive director, and we together agree finally on the season, though it's really in my bailiwick. And then I still do all of the selection of directors and of the designers in concert with the directors for the season. And I curate that season. And then we have a New Works festival at TheatreWorks. And I work with our director of New Works and help make the final selections on what pieces we're doing there, commissions that we have out for New Works. I work with marketing to set language and concept and direction for what we're saying about our shows. I work with development to set language around mission and vision and values for the organization, and then working with donors and funders to support the work there. Both of those efforts, the marketing of our shows and the development of our shows, each are about $4.5 million of income that they have to generate. And the directors of those areas, it's their job to do it. It's my job to help set direction and give them language and be available for interviews with press, available for interviews and conversations with donors, dinners, breakfasts, drinks, the whole thing. And then we do community outreach and arts engagement as well. And we have a director of that, but I also am there for them to bounce ideas off of and decide, and available to go out once we get out of COVID, out in person to those places where we're doing our engagement work in the different communities that are rich and in diversity and culture, and that we want to make better relationships and partnerships with. So that's the way I look at my job.
Wow. What time does this start in the morning? Like at 8 o'clock in the morning? Or is there a time? It just goes whenever it goes.
Yeah, I have to sleep eventually, and then I turn it off. But if I'm not asleep, by the time I get up, I'm on. And then from the time I go to bed, I'm on. I'm working about, 17-hour days.
Oh my God.
I try to, cut it off at a certain point, but right now in the pandemic, for some reason, the clock doesn't seem to have any meaning. And so I'm getting emails all day and night, but that's the nature of the job. It's always been the nature of the job.
Now, is COVID bad again there in TheatreWorks in Palo Alto?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say actually in the last 2 months, I have heard of more cases and heard of more of my colleagues, both at the theater and throughout the country, who have gotten COVID than got it in the entire pandemic up to that point. It's a very, whatever this strain is, this BA strain or whatever it's called, is really just cutting right through boosters and masks and everything for some reason. I've been, safe so far, but I test 3 times a week, sometimes 4 or 5 times a week, and keep my mask on all times unless I'm putting food in it, or I'm home by myself talking to you. It's tough, but we're making it. But we lost a couple performances of Ragtime.
I know. I
that
read
last
the
week.
reports. I know, last week. I know.
But that was the first time we got hit all season. We went 4 shows in a row with no stoppage.
Oh,
Nobody getting sick. No one
that's
getting
amazing.
sick.
Was the cast as big for the other shows, or
No, I deliberately planned for them to be smaller, and I redid the whole season somewhere in the midst of COVID, and thought I put Ragtime finally at a place where we might be out of it. But when is that going to be, brother? When is that going to be?
I don't know, man. It's so wild because the the last shows I've done, people are talking about not having enough people to work and build things.
Yeah.
So, but it was just odd to me because where did those stagehands and people who do that, where did they go?
I hate to conjecture, but I just a few anecdotes I'll tell you is that people went, I went and I started doing these construction jobs in people's homes or different things. And I never thought I really wanted to do that kind of work, but the money is good. And then the clock hits and they say, go home. Right. And I'm like, and it's not that far from my house. And so that's happening, man. I think the pandemic, and also people kind of had a moment to stop and really think about where their priorities were. And some people just decided being a carpenter in the theater wasn't enough for them. Now, I still think it's a beautiful job and it's an incredible craft. But we're struggling to get enough people to do that, all the jobs, every job.
That is so crazy because this last show I just did, it was Kinky Boots in Pittsburgh. The people backstage were 19, 20. I'm like, where the stagehands are usually like my age and things. I'm like, wow, it's wild to me. It's wild because listen, during the pandemic, I was in New York City, and I was in the middle of that nonsense, and then on my floor, all the other people were gone. So when they came back after, the thing kind of died down, I was like, where did you guys go? They went to my other house.
How nice.
I didn't get the memo. I didn't have another house, so I had to stay where I'm put, right in the middle of New York City. But it was wild to me that people didn't come back. They didn't return.
Yeah, right. No, it's true. San Francisco, a whole bunch of people cleared out. They went, I can do my work online. I'm gonna go to my vacation home and
just stay there.
In Mexico or wherever it was and do my stuff from there. Or I'm gonna move out of the city and do my work and go live somewhere that's a lot less expensive and is full of nature and get out of the city. So cities really lost a lot of people.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Tell me the best thing about being artistic director. I want to know what the best thing to you is.
Ooh. Well, I'll tell you, for me, I mean, right this second, because it's going to change by the day, but because there's a lot of wonderful things and a lot of terrible things. But the thing I love is pairing artists together, of going, oh, who would be great to work with this director, or this designer, this other designer, I think they will really, so it's alchemy. It's like the alchemy of that. It's connecting somebody with a project, and then watching that happen, watching that crackle happen, and then watching them come back and go, oh, thank you for putting me with so-and-so. That just, and you go, and then you hear 10, 20 years later and they go, oh yeah, we became best friends. We've only done a couple more shows together, but we became friends and we collaborate and we talk to each other, or we work together all the time now, or whatever. I mean, that
is amazing. I never thought of that. Is such a great, you're like a magician, putting all together, putting in the pot.
A yenta,
I do know.
Yeah.
What is the hardest thing about it?
Choosing a season.
Really?
So hard, because things aren't available sometimes. You can't afford them sometimes. You can afford it, but then you can't afford these other things that you have to do because you need to hit this part of your subscriber base, or you're looking for the variety in your season. It's not as you get to do what you want once you become an artistic director, as people think. In fact, it's really not like that at all.
Because that's what I think. Then you go, oh, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this, and then I just show everybody, look at this new season. But
yeah, I mean, maybe there was a day that was true, but not all the 30 years I've been doing this, 40 years almost now. I mean, and there's plenty of things I've been able to do that I love to do. It's the mix of them. Or, okay, I finally found I can get this project, we can budget it. This is the slot. It absolutely feels right to be in, because the shops have to have relief from, they can't do 2 big shows back and back with costumes or set or whatever. And you have to figure all those things out, right? And then you find out the person you wanted to play that lead role or to do this is unavailable in that slot. And so then you're like, but that was part of the reason I was, and so you try to build it. So who do you build it around? The artist, the audience, the shops, the budget.
Oh God.
And that, you get the idea. So that was why it is the most difficult thing. And it's a very lonely job. I mean, you collaborate with all these people, but everyone has their own thing. Like, well, yeah, we know why you want to do it for these reasons in this slot, but it doesn't work for this reason. And it's constant.
And do you have to bring it in front of the board and everything? Everyone has to sign off, like everyone, or is it more creative? Is it money?
Well, by the end, Gerry, when you really, at least in my experience, the board doesn't sign off on your season. They sign off on the budget that is based on the projections of expenses and income that season is going to generate. And so, and if those income and expenses don't jive, then you don't bring that in front of the board. You do all that work beforehand. You come to them, you say, we have worked out the income and expense question and our balance for the season. We believe we're going to end up breaking even, because we're a nonprofit business. We're not trying to make money, at least not in the world I'm in, nonprofit. We're looking to balance our budget in the end, and hopefully have a little surplus, but that's not the game. The game is, can I balance it all? And then they go, okay, and these are the reasons why I chose the season. This is how it fits into our mission. And the board says, you have our blessing. They don't say, well, why are you doing that show instead of that show? If that happens, then I'm not working for that theater. That doesn't happen. That shouldn't happen.
That's amazing. And so tell everybody what the season is, what you finally picked.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't. Let me see if I can pull it up out of today's crazed thinking. Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yes,
starts our season. Yes, and a new play called In Every Generation, which is really cool. About Passovers with the family over 4 millennia, from BC all the way into 50 years in the future from now. Really cool, really cool. And then I'm doing Fannie, the music and life of Fannie Lou Hamer, with the amazing Greta Oglesby playing the lead role, written by Cheryl West. Really excited about that. And then we're doing A Distinct Society by Kareem Fahmy. And this is a world premiere. And it's something we helped develop as part of our New Works Online show that we did we did 6 plays online over a year ago. And Kareem is a wonderful writer. It's about an Iranian family and this library that sits on the border of Vermont and Canada. That's an actual place where families during the Muslim ban would meet, because the American side could come and people could come in through Canada from other countries and come in and meet across the library. A true story. And
my God.
And it's a beautiful play. And that's a world premiere. And then following that, we're going to do a really fun version of Steel Magnolias with a multicultural cast. There'll be like half Black, half white, in the South, set in Louisiana, but in this beauty shop that'll be Black owned. And
Yes,
then
come on.
and
Come
then
on.
the newcomer that comes into the story is going to be, we don't know yet who it's going to be, but we hope they're going to be Latinx or API, because we just want to break open the idea that somehow the only way you can have a community of women that work together is they're all from the same race. And I'm like, there's more to life than that. And
I mean,
more humor to be found, and more extra issues. So that's going to be really cool. And Elizabeth Carter, who's the local African-American director, is going to take that project on. I really dig her. And then closing our season is a world premiere of a musical that we developed also through our new works process, called Alice Bliss, that the amazing Mark Brokaw is going to direct. And the collaborators on that show, are fantastic. And so I think that's going to be a really cool project. And that is about a young family in upstate New York that has whose father was in the reserves, but ends up getting called up into the surge during the Iraq War. And his daughter, who's a teenager, who's Alice Bliss, the Bliss family. And she is worried about her dad, and the family is falling apart while he's gone, and he goes missing. And they don't know if he's alive or dead. And they're sitting in a place of uncertainty, which is very apropos for the uncertainty we're in every day right now in this world, through the pandemic, through everything going on in society. And there's this wonderful eclectic, multicultural group of women around the play who are kind of a chorus, but they are also people from the community that Alice connects with, and dealing with disability, dealing with different cultural things. It's a gorgeous, beautifully composed new piece of music. Jenny Gehring did the music. We've got Adam Guan is doing the lyrics.
That's great.
And Karen Hartman is writing the book. The amazing Karen Hartman, who I've known many years. So it's a great team. So that finishes our season. Now we're only doing 6 shows, which is still a lot for anybody in the middle of COVID to be programming. We usually do 8. We usually do 8 shows, and we, along with many other regional theaters, are smalling down the size of our season because our subscription base has smalled down due to COVID, and we just don't know how many people are coming. We don't have the money to commit to doing as big a shows either. So none of those shows are more than 10 people. We can't do a ragtime next year,
Wow. Yes. Wow.
But it's a great season. I think it's fun. It's eclectic, And the thing with Little Shop of Horrors is we're setting it in Chinatown in San Francisco. So that's going to blow the casting wide open, and really
I love it.
Have some nice cultural connections and bring all that in. Directed by Jeffrey Lowe, who's a wonderful Jeffrey Lowe. So it's cool. So it's a fun season.
Fantastic season. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I we'll have to get back to that later. Those type of horrors, because I'm obsessed about it. I have to make it work. I'm gonna make it work.
That's an Ali Viterbi, by the way. Ali Viterbi, who wrote In Every Generation, is a real playwright to keep your eyes on. She is really special. She grew up in San Diego, but I think she's in New York now. But what she's done in the way this play operates through time and space is mystical and powerful. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
I love that. So did you have to read like 9 million scripts? Oh my God.
Which I love.
Was it daunting to you when, because Robert Kelly was the artistic director before, and he ran the theater. He started the theater 50 years ago. and then won a Tony Award, and then you step in, and now it's your turn. And was that daunting? We're like, oh dear God, I can't believe, or exciting when it wasn't? Because to me, I'd be like, really? Do I have to do it?
It's exciting. It's exciting, but and it is daunting, to be real, on one hand. But COVID is what really made it weird, because I was going to be there with Kelly for the last 3 months. I was going to get a chance to sort of see how everything operated. I'm talking March 2020, the fateful day, the fateful, March 17th or whatever. And it was like it was all good. It was all set up. Everything was flowing. We had announced the next season. He was going to direct 2 more shows, and I was going to be there through them and watch how he worked and how the shop worked and how marketing and everything worked. And then the pandemic hit, and the offices are empty. We're not doing anything on stage. Everything is shut down like everyone else in the world. And I'm going, and out of that, I'm now picking up the pieces to put it. So that has been the more challenging thing, which is somewhat of an advantage, if I can look at the positive side of it, that people went through this long period of nothing. And then as we came back, so their ability to compare to what had just come before is a little different.
Yeah.
But I'm not so worried about being compared to that, because there's nobody who can be like another person ever. And in these jobs, this is the 4th time I've taken over a theater from someone else.
Okay.
So, and following a founder is always hard, but there has never been, as far as we know, anyone who has run a LORT theater for 50 years. No one has run a theater that long, and no one has founded a theater. I mean, the theater movement only started 60 years ago, the regional theater movement.
Yeah.
So for 50 years now, it started as a small little children's theater, then a community theater, and then a semi-professional theater, and then an equity theater, and then a LORT theater. So through each of those decades, the theater has grown and matured, and it came to a place, and it was time for him to move on, and it was ready. But there are still things that have to be done to get the company to the place that's going to really sustain it for the next 50 years. And that's what I came to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. It's hard. It's hard, but it's cool.
I mean, it's so wild, because I did 2 shows with Kelly, and the fact that when he told me he was retiring, I'm like, what does one do when they retire? Because I don't, you stay at home and read books. I read, I'm going to keep moving till I can't.
Yes.
So retiring to me just sounded so odd, but he was like, 50 years and doing all that stuff is a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yes. And I understand retiring from being an artistic director. I don't think he's retiring from life or retiring from being an artist.
Yeah.
So I hope he will still direct. I hope he will come back and direct for us when we find the right project for him.
Right.
In the future, which we will. So, Kelly's retired from being the founding artistic director, but he's not retired from
sitting home and knitting. I don't know if he knits, but he
no, there's no knitting. Walking, lots of walking. He and Ed go walking all the time. It's great, and he's a great guy. So
he's so great. I mean, we like met because of Alan Filderman, the casting director. Yeah. Like, you put us together, like the magician, you put us together. You guys would love working with each other. And I was like, we were doing Once on This Island together, which was touchy for me, because, that was my thing on Broadway. So I thought, I was like, okay, here we go. And he was so generous and gorgeous, and we had just a great time together and a great working relationship together, and that's why I ended up doing Ragtime. So
yeah, I watched you guys doing Ragtime. I love it, and I love Alan. I've known Alan a long time. Alan worked with me and at Oregon Shakespeare Festival with Libby Apple when I was associate there. He did a lot of our casting, and then Alan cast for me at Syracuse Stage. So, and now here I am again with him again. And so we'll be working together on a couple shows this year for sure. I hope.
See, that's the thing about this crazy business that no one kind of understands. Like, wait, you met and worked with each other 10 years ago, and now you're back doing something. Yeah, and we kind of really see, but that's how this is. That's the beauty of this thing. I the trying to explain it to other people is the hard part. Like my sister, she works for Merck and she's worked there for years. It's like when you're working on Christmas Eve and Thanksgiving, and I'm like, yeah, because it's a show. I have to go to. This is the deal. This is what the theater is.
We're in the entertainment business, and people want to be entertained when they're like, oh, I want to go let it hang out. That's when we're on.
That's right, exactly. And after the turkey dinner, that's when they want to see a show. So we're ready to go. You just got to be ready to go. Can you tell me about what was the FAIR program? Because when I read that, I was like, I don't know what that is. Tell me about.
Oh, well, the FAIR program stands for fellowships, assistantships, internships, and residencies. And it's, essentially all of the programs that are mentorships for the next generation. And I was at Oregon Shakespeare Festival. I've been there a few years as associate, and we were doing our equity and diversity and inclusion work there before it was called all that. But we were, at it. This was in the 90s. And I was looking at this amazing staff of people, many of whom had been there over 20 years, 20, 30 years. And more than half of them, I said, how did you get started in this business and with this company? And they said, oh, I came in an internship. And I interned back when it was still not even an equity company. And I've worked my way up and learned all this through all these years. I go, you have 30 years, 20 years, 15 years of knowledge at one of the biggest theater companies in the United States, but there's no internship program here anymore. There was no specific program. Wow. There were occasional interns, but it was not coordinated. I said, there are too many people with too much knowledge here, and they're too white. And so why can't we reach out specifically and try to find a much more diverse population of young people interested in learning about development, interested in learning about lighting, being in the scene shop, being an actor, being a director, being a dramaturg, and create a program that supports them, that pays them through fellowships, that pays them through assistantships, that sets up internships that they get credit from the universities they're from, or a longer residency for 3 months or a half a year or a year where they really get to dig in and study under an artistic director or study under an executive director. And so it took me a couple of years, but we got funding through the whole festival and we formed this. And that program went on for a long time, at least 10, 12 years. I hope they will reinstate it through so many changes in the last couple of years. It disbanded for a while, but hopefully it'll reform again.
I mean, I've got to talk to the boss about that. That's what we need. Yeah. Because these, people of color, they don't think it's a possibility unless I'm on stage and I'm singing and dancing and acting, but that's it. But it's like, there's so much stuff. I mean, house manager, all right. that,
Right, all of it, right? But we got to pay people, the challenge that's happened in the American theater around internships, because there are a lot of internship programs around the country, but and this has been a big issue lately is going, often they're white privileged kids who can afford to not work and take time to go learn these things.
Yes.
And so, young people from whatever background they're from culturally that don't have the means can't afford to go to an unpaid internship unless it's somehow, they're getting credits for it through school and they've paid their tuition and it's part of their education and all that. So, theaters have to begin to make a different commitment to mentoring that next generation. And the thing is, a mentorship is a two-way street. And that was the other ulterior motive for me, was not only getting the next generation to learn from these master craftspeople and administrators and artists, it was to know that they were going to bring ideas in as young, fresh, exciting, diverse people, ideas that were going to bust open models that had been stuck and become calcified at an institution, and inject the organization with diversity and inclusion on a level that would break open the whole thinking of the thing. It was, it was subversive. It was like, how are we going to get Oregon Shakespeare Festival in the middle of Oregon, out in the middle of nowhere? I almost said what kind of out there was, to become diverse. And I said, well, we're going to bring people here and we're going to really try to find them. And anyway, so that was, so I'm very proud of that program. And I can't take all the credit for, there were many people that helped me do it, including Penny Metropolis, the other associate who was working with me. But it was also, and Libby Apple, who supported that program from top leadership, and Paul Nicholson. But it's also, the Alan Lee Hughes Fellowship Program at Arena Stage is what really kind of inspired me to go, well, why doesn't Oregon Shakespeare Festival have something like that? That can really help mentor in those ways. And TCG's mentorship programs, which I went through as well. All those things help.
It makes so much sense. I was trying to find a Black stage manager, person of color, whatever color. I was not, it just had to be, but couldn't find anybody. I was searching. I went through, text everybody, and I was like, wait a minute, this is the problem. Because there's no internship. There's no one following somebody and shadowing somebody. And stage management, they make a lot of money. They work all the time. This is a part of a great union that you could work and be in theater. But the kids don't know it. Our chocolate kids don't know about that.
I know. And, well, and there's some really good ones out there. There's some really terrific BIPOC stage managers that are out there, but they're too few and far between, and there isn't a pipeline for that. And there's a lot of efforts being made now for designers and directors to begin to say, no, they're out there. You just don't know them because you haven't been looking, and you're not in the networks where folks are. But for stage management and other things on the administrative side of organizations, there's a dearth of folks because people don't know that that's an option, and they don't know how to get into that network. And so the same kind of folks keep getting funneled into there. So we have to break this open. We got to.
We have to, because it's time, by the way. And
past time. Yeah.
It's past time.
The alarm's been ringing for 30, 40, 50 years. From the beginning.
Yeah. We got to do it. And I'm so glad that you're in charge over there. I'm just I had to have you on the show. I had to have you because I wanted to talk to you. And your spirit is so genuine, and I just adore you.
Oh, you too, my friend. You too. Thanks for asking me to join you, man. And I hang out with Gerry Mac anytime.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to see you soon. How about that? It's kind of like a threat, but
I'm ready.
You're ready.
I'm ready. Right. I think I'm ready.
All right, my friend.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I couldn't thank you anymore. I appreciate it. I will see you soon.
My pleasure. Peace. Stay strong, man.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Tim as much as I do. Next up at the York, we have Cheek to Cheek. It's running from 9:13 to 10:16. And then we have Hoagie, which runs from 11:22 to 12:31. If you are not a member, you can become one. Just go to yorktheater.org, and it's spelled the good old-fashioned way with an R-E. You can check out what's coming up and what's going on. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you.